Retro Hangover is supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We would especially like to thank patrons Lyle McCarnes, Tony G, Tom the Superhero, Studstill Smash the Milkman, Lucas from Game Over Hell, Mast Keaton, Ozzy Garcia, JC, Megan Caruso, Rick Firestone, Dave Jackson, Jenny E, Retro Overdrive, Soha, The Emperor, Storm Beagle, Matt aka Stormageddon, Van Fernal and B. Ross from Super Garbage Day, Jared Brayland, Randall Quiggle, Raging Demon, Keith Gasper, The Retro Vixen, Eric Guess, Nomad from the Retro Wildlands Podcast, Ash Event, Alan Bingham, Mike the Rep from Backbreaker Gaming, Ryan Player One, Alt, Gary Heather, Low5 Alex, Omi, Makeshift Money, Sega Boy 7, and Riskel. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated.
Open your ears and crack some beers. You are listening to the most recent episode of Retro Hangover.
And hello, retro and classic gamers. Welcome to the podcast where we gravitate groovily, gathering good galaxy greetings. This is Retro Hangover. I am your co-host, Chris Copleen, with special guest, Geoff Moonen, voice actor and host from the Fun and Games podcast. And, as always, your host, Shane. Up, down, up, left, down, chew, dick, chew, dragon, salter.
How do I gravitate groovily, Chris? I want to learn this power.
Well, it is a groove evening.
Yeah, what is a groove evening? That is a better question. Getting me hyped already for this episode just by saying that. I just want to repeat it. It's so good.
I mean, that's the gameplay. You say it back.
It is.
This episode's going to be twice as long because we're all going to be like Simon saysing it back and forth.
Oh God, please no.
We should try that.
Record, play, play. No.
No, listen, we could try that. I wouldn't guarantee success, but it could be a good attempt.
Well, maybe we did try it and it just wasn't releasable. The listeners will never know.
Yeah, we'll keep you in mystery.
Probably for the best.
Yes.
What's life without a little mystery? There's no modern way to play this game. There's no way to access what we tried. This is fine.
Yes. But if you're listening right here, that voice is from the amazing Geoff Moonen. As I said in the intro, I just said it, a voice actor and a host from the Fun and Games podcast, making his debut here for the Retro Hangover podcast. It is so good to have you here, Geoff.
It is so good to be here. Thank you for having me. I am, in my usual fashion, following along. If Matt Storm has been on a video game podcast, there is a 60% chance I will follow. It's just, it's not that I need them to lead the way. It's just they can't not network, and I trust their judgment. So when they say they have a good time, I'm like, yeah, I'm in.
Well, you know what they say, 60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't have to.
And they've been such a good guest, so been on a couple times. So now that you've been on and had the both of you, we have completed that circle, so to speak.
Absolutely. We technically my partner is our associate producer, but she doesn't guest on things. So
that's true. I can't forget about her. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, yeah.
No, not at all. Not
One
at
day.
all. As far as guests go, yes. If you've had Matt and you've had Geoff, Fun and Games complete.
Okay.
That's
okay.
Sarah's New Game Plus. You're fine.
Okay. Well, if she wants to stop by, just let us know and we'll see what we can do.
Will do.
Okay. But before we get into today's episode, which is, I have to say it this way, I have to, Space Channel 5, we like to talk about the games that we have been playing lately. And as we are wont to do, as tradition dictates, we begin with our guest. So, Geoff, what games have you been playing lately?
Well, I literally stopped a multiplayer game of Baldur's Gate 3 to hop on here, so I would say I've been playing that recently.
We interrupt Baldur's Gate 3 night. No,
this is fine. This is a long-standing thing I've had. This has been the same multiplayer game I've been playing with some friends since the game came out. We have just been stretching it out, and every time we've got a little bit of free time once a week, we play, and if not, we are just going to faff about. We're nearly there. We are so nearly there, and we'll figure out what we're playing next after that. But in the meantime, myself, I'm playing Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo on Steam right now. That came out recently, and that's been a lot of fun. A sort of top-down GBA style action puzzler. You are a child of a mob family, and your great aunt, who is the matriarch of that family, due to circumstances, is now a ghost inside your yo-yo, and you are going to be using a lot of banking and physics in order to, make some things right. Are they wrong? Who cares? You're 9 and like yo-yos. It's a lot of...
If I had $1 for every time my grandmother haunted a yo-yo.
It's weird that it happened twice. The other one, a Fun and Games episode that is probably coming out around the same time as this, or close enough, as our 3DS retrospective. So I've been getting really back into 3DS, and so I've been playing a lot of Persona Q, because it's probably my favorite game on there, and I recently got a good physical copy of it. So I've been, I did a Persona 4 protagonist run a while back. So, now I'm doing Persona 3. I like that it allows for that. And I guess the other one is I'm getting into playing a bit of Nightmare Kart, which is a legally distinct kart racing game that is in no way related to Bloodborne.
Yes.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Legally distinct. There's shirts that say it. That had a recent unveiling or full release of an arcade cabinet at Wonderville in Brooklyn.
Oh, nice.
So I had a chance to play that recently. Oh my gosh. Look up what the cabinet looks like. They've got like kind of a cool carriage look to the top of it, and the cabinet itself is lined like a coffin. It's beautiful. They've got some real cool pieces in there, and I'm terrible at it. It's amazing.
I got to look this up now.
Yeah.
Yes. No, please, Chris, take a moment on this audio only format.
No, you're right. That's what I'll do.
Well, this is something we can all do together, listeners. Please, if you have the opportunity, and it won't turn off the audio for you to also look up, or if it does, you know
Exactly.
what? We'll still be here when you get back, and we're happy that you took the time.
Exactly. While you're driving down on the freeway, pick up your phone.
Oh, great.
Do what I say, look it up.
See the lawsuits.
Hey, I will not be held accountable.
Legally distinct.
Exactly.
You're living the life of Nightmare Kart by doing this while driving. So that's up to you whether or not that's a good idea.
I'm looking at the cabinet right now. It is really cool.
The flames at the bottom are a thing that are just constantly going. That was apparently a recent addition.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at an older one then. Still, that's really cool.
It's sexy and very fun to play.
Shane, how about yourself? I think Nightmare Kart would be up your alley, Shane.
Well, turns out that it is. I remember when it was first unveiled. I took a little crack at it. It is pretty saucy, if I do say so myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I feel like mine's not nearly as exciting. I don't know. I really don't know how I could follow that up, to be perfectly honest with you, because all I've really been doing is a lot of stuff for the show, as it turns out. I played a grand total of maybe 45 minutes of Space Channel 5. Therefore, I feel like I've qualified to talk about it. And let's see. I've also been trying to put more time into Persona 4 Golden, because that is looming like a sword over my head, and it's coming pretty soon.
Is it your first playthrough?
It is.
Ooh, that's fantastic.
I'm hoping I can actually finish it in time.
What month are you in?
That's a great
That's
question.
usually my best way of like spoiler free. How far along are you?
He's in May.
Yeah, I think it's May. Yeah, that laugh says everything you need to know.
You're going to, honestly, you know what? You're going to be fine. As somebody who is utter Persona trash and has played through 3, 4, and 5 multiple times, 4 is probably the breeziest to get through. 5 has a lot of cutscenes, has a lot of everything else, and all of it's good. And 3, depending upon the version you're playing, Tartarus can be a lot. So that doesn't mean that Persona 4 is not a 60 to 100 hour RPG, but it's still, I would say, the breeziest out of the main Persona titles.
Well, given
I think that's fair.
the near aneurysm that Chris had last night at the time of this recording, trying to explain Persona fusing to me, I'm not sure that that's all that all that encouraging.
Look, you know what? It really is a thing. And I feel this way about anime, about video games, about whatever else, and certainly stuff like Persona. How much anime nonsense are you willing and excited to put up with?
I don't know. I feel like my threshold is pretty high.
Then you're going to love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Persona!
So anyway, at any rate, I've got that going on. And also I blame Stika for getting me back into the mobile version of Wizardry, because I had said that I was going to swear that off. I was done with it. And then we did the Wizardry episode and here I am again. But I feel like, and I told Chris this, I feel like I have a better sense of it this time around, having played Labyrinth of Lost Souls. I feel like I'm more in the wizardry zone. Like I'm vibing with it in a way that I didn't before. So it's actually helping me understand playing Daphne more now that I played Labyrinth. So you know what? I'm enjoying it again. And I started fresh because, I mean, I probably should have anyway, but also I didn't remember what my login information was for the other account. So it's fine. But, you know, starting fresh was probably a good idea. So, yeah. So I'm having fun with that. But that's pretty much it right now.
Sweet.
I didn't know Wizardry had a mobile version.
It does. It is very, speaking of, it is extremely anime.
Yes.
There you go.
And gotcha.
Yeah, that's what stops me.
Yeah, but it's of all of the horrid gotcha hellscape that is out there on mobile devices, it's actually not really that bad. You don't even really need to interact with the gotcha system almost at all, and you'll still be able to play through pretty much everything. So they're pretty good about that for what it's worth.
Okay. I lost a lot of time to Final Fantasy Tactics, Brave Exvius, War of the Visions. So
yes.
I don't think I need to go back, and I'll just interact with Wizardry elsewhere. And there's plenty of fertile ground there.
Yeah, that's valid. Yeah,
very much. As for myself, I am trapped in Persona, which is both a good and a bad thing. But the bad thing is that I'm not able to play anything else really, because I'm trying to lock it down and get ready for. Exactly. I'm in the TV. I am for reference, Jeff, I am at the end of June. I have just gotten through Risei's dungeon, and I did it all in one day because I got to build up those social links. That's what's important. That's
Absolutely.
what I need to do. Yes. Yukiko is my waifu, and I will not be denied. I'll see if that's a hot take or not. I think a lot of people like Yukiko.
No arguments here. It's right. One of my favorite things about... I'm very open as far as opinions, as far as RPGs, things like that. Everyone's got their thing. I got my thing, whatever. I love playing them with my partner because she has very strong capital O opinions. And it's just that kind of like, well, you can try something else. Why would I try something else? Yukiko, obviously.
Yes. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Just getting ready for the episode that's going to be in 2 weeks from now as you're listening to this. We're excited. Lyle's going to be on there because, of course, he is. He's the one responsible for all of that, which is a feeling. But that's kind of, I'll just kind of keep it brief there because I don't really want to talk about it because we'll be talking about it more next time. So let's get into the brief history. Shane, you gotta introduce me or else it's going to be boring. I can't segue myself in here.
Okay. You could, but yes. I guess let's not.
No.
Yeah. All right. Fine. Hey, Chris, this isn't forced at all.
No.
Okay, great. Hi. I'm interested to know more about the history behind a game in which you defeat aliens through the magic of dance. Would you be able to fill me in on that?
I guess.
Great.
Expanding your audience to be more inclusive is a key consideration for any game developer, and it was a particular focus for Sega in the late 1990s. Eager to grow its player base, Sega set its sights on attracting more female gamers to its new flagship console, the Dreamcast. To lead this initiative, Sega selected Tetsuya Mizuguchi, who was primarily known for his work on racing games, like Sega Rally Championship and Manx TT Superbike. With little experience in developed games for this new demographic, Mizuguchi took a hands-on approach by interviewing young women to better understand their gaming preferences. He found that many preferred traditional puzzle games over those that emphasized high scores, and this insight inspired him to create a game centered around music. Drawing influences from acts such as Switzerland's Street Parade, music from the 1950s and 60s, as well as artists like Peter Gabriel and Michael Jackson. Sega officially assigned the project to its AM9 division, assembling a team that included members from Team Andromeda and Sonic Team, along with newcomers to the industry. Space Channel 5 was first announced at the Tokyo Game Show in September 1999 and launched in Japan on December 16th of that year. The localization process was handled with care, particularly in selecting the right voice for the protagonist, Ulala, while making minimal changes beyond language adaptation. The game was released in North America on June 6, 2000, and in Europe on October 8th. Space Channel 5 received generally positive reviews, earning an aggregate score of 84 on Game Rankings, with praise directed at its atmosphere and musical score, though some critics noted its repetitive gameplay. In terms of sales, the game sold approximately 94,000 copies in Japan, but worldwide figures remain relatively unknown. While initially regarded as a success, Mizuguchi later stated in 2005 that the game was ultimately not a commercial hit. Despite modest sales, Space Channel 5 was ported to the PlayStation in 2002 and received a Game Boy Advance remake in 2003. A direct sequel, Space Channel 5 Part 2, was released for both the Dreamcast and PlayStation 2, though its availability was region limited. Over time, Space Channel 5 has come to be seen as emblematic of the Dreamcast era, with ports to PC, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360 as part of Sega's Dreamcast collection, and its lead character Ulala remaining an enduring symbol of the console's unique legacy. And that is your brief history of Space Channel 5.
Space Channel 5.
Why, thank you.
Do.
Ba-ba-da!
You know what I think is interesting about this is that, like, I having no knowledge of this game whatsoever, never owning, well, either of the consoles that it was on, still knew the character. I feel like that says a lot.
Oh, yeah. That was the thing. Sarah was, when I told her I was playing this game, she saw it and went, I know this character. I've seen her. Why do I know her? Have I played this game? No. And she looked it up and figured it out. Ulala was a presenter for the MTV Video Music Awards in the year 2000.
Oh
yeah,
my
Sega was going
God,
hard.
that's right. Holy shit. That was like a core memory unlock. Oh my God.
That's basically the reaction she had. And I mean, because this was the time when they were pushing kind of the digital actor idea. This is around the same time that, I mean, I think it was a few years before, but this is around when we got Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within, and Square Pictures was basically trying to push the notion of a digital actor. The idea
Yes.
that the lead actress from Final Fantasy The Spirits Within, whose name escapes me at the moment, was going to be like assets that could be used in future digital films. Now, I don't think Sega was planning on doing that with Ulala, but there is a certain amount of franchise loyalty within that. Her Japanese voice, Mineko Akamura, who was one of the assistant producers on Space Channel 5, I believe she has voiced Ulala in every appearance she's had since, even in like Racing Superstars and Project X Zone and those crossovers. So there's at least a bit of that, even if they toned down the having her be a personality.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of core memories locked there, because I remember that whole entire digital actor idea at the time. I think like Robert De Niro was a centerpiece of one of it as well. Like they had like they would have him voice a character, and they were showing how versatile they could make a digital representation of him versus him being himself.
And now there is an actors' equity strike going on right now about all of that.
Yes, yes. Time is a flat circle, as they say.
Yep.
Well, I mean, they were asking for it 25 years ago. Not saying this should be that way. No, don't. I'm much happier with live actors. I think that is a better thing.
I mean, live actors, real actors, even for voice and for everything else. You want motion capture and everything, motion capture and what have you. I mean, honestly, and I think we can talk more about this later, sort of the 1999, 2000, early 2001, kind of that period of time that was like the end of history before 9/11, when we had a certain optimism and a certain throwback and everything else going on, there was a lot of projects that kind of made a lot of different statements, and Space Channel 5 kind of did too, actually, which is what I think we'll get to later, that the last few years have felt like prophetic.
Yeah, I would say so.
Just a little. So yeah, time is a weird flat circle.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We'll definitely talk about that in the story. We will definitely get to that.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to bring up about the history is Tetsuya Mizuguchi. And if you don't know who that is, it's interesting that he was working on racing games. And then this game seemed to unlock really his true potential, because every game after this was essentially that he was a part of was a puzzle game, and not just like regular run of the mill puzzle games. Some of the best puzzle games ever made. This includes, I think is it Lumens or Luminous?
I think it's Luminous.
So Luminous, which originally came out for the PSP, is fantastic. Tetris Effect, I have heard no one say anything bad about Tetris Effect ever. I think that is widely considered to be one of the breakout puzzle games of at least the past 10, if not 20 years, if not ever.
I'd agree.
Using a classic formula and just being widely universally acclaimed. And a game that I love, but probably not a lot of Westerners know, which is called Gunpei, which was a WonderSwan title, which is absolutely delightful. It's a great game.
It is.
With its name as a homage to the creator of the WonderSwan, and of course a lot of Nintendo systems you may or may not have heard of. But it's he's become like the leading figure in puzzle game creation. It's crazy that it when you think about it, it all started here.
Yeah, well, he also, if I'm not mistaken, was sort of the mind behind Rez and Child of Eden as well, which is kind of the other side of that formula, where you can definitely trace a line from racing game passing through Space Channel 5 to shooter with vibes. Yes.
And I think some of the members of Team Andromeda were on with him, with Rez as well. Which I might be wrong there, but if that is the case, that would explain a lot of other things with Rez too. If you have that Panzer Dragoon kind of feel, the music, it's just, it all comes together. Like the lineage that he has in terms of a producer and just overall project leader is very evident, and I think it's quite simply amazing the things he's been able to accomplish.
Agreed.
But yeah, I'll start it here. All right, but let's get into our personal experiences. We'll let you have the last word on this one, Geoff. Shane, I think we'll start this one off with you.
Oh, will we now?
Yes.
Great. All right. I already kind of I spoiled it, right? Like just a few moments ago. Yeah. I ain't got nothing, man. I listen, I saw Ulala in like the year 2000, and I was like, that's crazy. And that's it. That's all I got for you.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
That was deep, meaningful. I'll go next here. I think I pre-ordered this game. I was hyped for this game. I don't know how or why, but I was in full Dreamcast fanatic mode. If you showed me a PlayStation 2, I would threaten to cut you because it was threatening my dear Dreamcast. So,
and boy, did
much, it ended up cutting me very, very, very deeply as well. But like Space Channel 5 just seemed to have all the right ingredients, all the right flair, just all the personality. And I was like, I'm pre-ordering this. And so I got it day one and I played it for a while. I absolutely adored it. And this was kind of like my burgeoning experience into rhythm games as well, because Samba de Amigo came out not too long after this or around that time.
Yeah.
I imported Guitar Freaks for the PlayStation 1 and played that. And if you don't know what Guitar Freaks is, it's pretty much the direct predecessor to Guitar Hero. They're in like a year or two later, the Guitaru Man came out for the PS2.
Yep.
So these were all games I was getting into, and I think Space Channel 5 really unlocked that interest in rhythm games for me. And it was just, it was a mass appeal. I can't remember whether or not I imported it, Space Channel 5 Part 2. I don't recall if I did or not. I did know about it. I did want it to come out, but by the time it was released, the Dreamcast was dead in North America for the most part. And it sounds like the game just didn't sell that well here, which I wasn't aware of. I thought it was explosive by the way Sega went so hard in the marketing for it. I thought it was a bigger deal than it was. So it was sad not to see Part 2 come out. I don't think I've ever played Part 2. Fortunately, I have ways, but I don't think I have.
I recommend it. There's a lot of issues that I have with Space Channel 5 Part 1 that Part 2 addresses as far as gameplay.
Okay.
There's some nice cleanup there.
I'll be interested to hear that later on, because I would like to hear what your issues are, of course, because I have my own. But yeah, I'd like to hear that. But over to you, Geoff. What are your personal experiences here?
Surprisingly limited, I'll be honest, because I am a very dyed-in-the-wool, long-time rhythm game player. I was a PlayStation kid, so Parappa the Rapper and Jammer Lammy were huge for me, and I was a massive New Jersey mall rat. So in fact, the Fun and Games podcast is named for the arcade that used to be at Willowbrook Mall, Fun and Games, and I played so much Dance Dance Revolution. It's why I'm wearing Dance Dance Revolution earrings right now. Like,
nice.
This is one of two pairs I have. I have studs and I have danglers. The danglers show up better on video. Regardless, I love rhythm games so much. And so the fact that, I was definitely looking at importing different Bamani games, Keyboard Maniac, Guitar Freaks, whatever else. A friend of mine imported Dance Dance Revolution third mix so that we could play Follow the Sun at home kind of thing. So, but the problem was, I didn't have a Dreamcast, and none of my friends who had Dreamcasts cared about Space Channel 5. So it was always just a thing that I was fascinated by, intrigued by. I never really saw much of the gameplay, and I continued playing other rhythm games as time went on. I definitely played tons of Guitar Man. I did play Samba de Amigo at someone else's dorm when I was in college because I happened to have it, but that's a whole thing. You need the mat and everything. But this was one that has kind of been a gap in my experience, and certainly of a time when I was so enamored, obsessed with rhythm games, and it felt possible to play them all or at least delve into them and explore them. I was probably the very beginnings of my journey into games criticism and analysis. If I had known what podcasting was at the time, I would have started a rhythm game podcast. As it was, I was trying to figure out how to make a website to just put up all of them and write about them. So one of the reasons why when you sent me a list of pick a game, I saw Space Channel 5 and I went, I am going to right a wrong. And I already had a copy of Space Channel 5 Special Edition for PS2. So
nice.
I was like, now's the time to dust it off and play it, because I have entirely too many physical games, and I have that problem that all of us have of just because I have the game doesn't mean I've played it yet. So this was a good excuse, and I was delighted to do it.
That another statement that cut me deep there, Geoff, at the very end. That one hurt. I feel attacked.
I see your setup in the back, and I'm very jealous. I imagine you had a better time. Were you playing Space Channel 5 on your TV or on PC?
So I played it on TV, but I played it on my LCD screen via a VGA connector.
Okay.
No. So I didn't have the lag that you normally do when you hook it up through composite, because there's no component out for the Dreamcast yet. Hopefully that comes soon.
There is not, and the lag hurt.
Yeah, I could completely understand that. I would not play Space Channel 5 through component on an LCD. There's no. And yeah, I'm glad I have a CRT in case that didn't work. If the lag was too bad, I would just go over there. But yeah, there's no way I would try to do it any other way.
Boy, I did it. And now I'm doing other things so that I can heal.
Oh, well. So I take it. So versions everyone played. I played the Dreamcast version. Geoff, I take it you played the PS2 version. That's what you said.
Yep.
And Shane, you did as well?
Yes, I ordered I have a complete in-box copy of this game now for my PS2 that I played on that through my CRT. So I tried to be as authentic as possible.
Nice. The instruction manual's cute.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't remember the cover being holographic for the Dreamcast, and that's the only one I could find.
Maybe it wasn't for all the versions, but that's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. I like, not holographic, lithographic. I don't know the official term is.
The one where if you move it, it's two different images.
Yeah.
Lithographic.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah. That's for the Dreamcast.
Holographic would be like a foil.
Yeah. See, this is why I have smarter people than me on this show. they know how to say things right.
I'm not smart. I just have ADHD, insomnia, and access to Wikipedia.
Oh, man. All right. Let's get into the plot writing. I'm going to read what the manual said, because it's not like 5 pages long like we've had recently, or it doesn't exist. We actually have something.
Thousands of years ago.
Almost. Hundreds of years ahead.
Indeed.
Yes. So here's what the manuals does say. It's the 25th century, and planet Earth is in a state of crisis. An alien race, the Malorians, have launched an invasion against Earth, randomly shooting innocent victims with a mysterious ray gun. The effect of the ray is rather unusual, as it forces people to dance uncontrollably and enslaves them to alien rhythms. Of course, their attack has caused a widespread panic. The first station to grab the scoop is a Little Watch space broadcaster, Space Channel 5. Sensing a golden opportunity to boost ratings, the director, Fuse, has sent the only reporter left who hasn't been captured, a reporter named Ulala. The broadcast begins at the location of the first incident, Spaceport 9. Ulala must copy the Malorians' dance step, up, down, right, left, shoot, shoot, shoot. Ulala is the only hope we have to defeat the Malorians and free the human victims. The future of the Earth is in her hands. Okay, question if either of you know this, because it's not mentioned here, and it doesn't really feel like they touch on it later. The opening of this game, by the way, there will be spoilers for Space Channel 5 if you haven't played it. We're gonna talk about all of it. Has her floating in space as a child.
Yes.
10 years before the events of the game, and she's caught, and then it just kind of flashes forward and doesn't really feel like they ever address it again. Am I missing something?
Yes, that is implied. That gets called back to later on when Jaguar saves her at the end of stage 4, implying that Jaguar was in fact the one who saved her. There was an accident and she was the only survivor. That's really most of it.
Okay. Jaguar.
Indeed.
Yes. Looking forward to gameplay. All right. But let's get into the story proper. So that's the background. Because this game does have I wouldn't say like it's a deep, meaningful, cinematic, sweeping story, but it does have a story. It is trying to say something.
It's got as meaty of a plot as any contemporary rhythm game its contemporary rhythm games do.
Yeah. Guitar Man was kind of the same way, but Guitar Man came after, I think.
Yes, but I mean, Jammer Lammy was around the same time, and that was another one where it's kind of there is a through line, there are incidents, there is stuff going on, there are lessons learned and rises and falls, so why not?
Yeah, I think Jammer Lammy is a little. I haven't played Jammer Lammy, by the way, nor have I played Parappa Rapper. I think that those games are longer. Am I correct? Like this game feels a lot more compact.
They all were compact at the time. Parappa the Rapper had 5 stages and Jammer Lammy had 7. And those were each unto themselves singular songs, probably about 2 minutes apiece with cutscenes in between. So much like how Space Channel 5, you could do a full playthrough if you're good in less than an hour. You could do the same thing for Parappa or Jammer. Jammer Lammy had a lot more you could unlock on other stages to play, variations on them. Like basically they had 7 tracks, and stages 2 through 6 had other variations that were like 2-player, or you could play as Parappa or whatever. But in much the same way that Space Channel 5 has kind of the alternate routes you can get after you beat the game the first time. But by and large, they are around the same length, heft, size. That's just, that was one of the major complaints of rhythm games at the time, I think, where it's just like, oh, it's so cool. It's so catchy. Oh my God, this is a whole new thing. It's kind of short though. And this was during that time when reviews were, really took that into account.
When Parasite Eve got just destroyed for only being like a 15-hour game.
Exactly. I'll never forget the Toonami review of Ico that was like, yeah, it's amazing. It's great. It's only 5 hours though. So like 7 out of 10.
Please give me more of those.
I know.
I want more of those.
This is what we need in this world.
Yes.
Come on, Tom.
Let's get into the plot itself and how it's told. Shane, you've been quiet, so I'll let you kind of kick this one off. What do you think about this game's plot overall?
What is there to say? It's it was very enjoyable in that it was like it never at any point takes itself seriously, and I adore it for that. You also got to like contextualize it, right? Because Austin Powers dropped in 97 and then this comes 2 years later. So we were very much like in that sort of like 60s vibe. Like there's no way that I couldn't make that connection in my brain between these two things. And I mean, as far as, the story goes, I'm gonna be honest. I took the same sort of tact that I do with my venerated boomer shooters. I feel like I've come around to just accepting that terminology now, which I don't know how I feel about, but it's fine. I'll talk to my therapist later about it. But in that, the story is nice that it's there, but that's not really why I'm there. Like I'm there to be awful at rhythm, and I succeeded. So there you go. I'd like to blame it on like lag, but given my setup, I don't think that's valid. So I think I'm just terrible.
I would still blame the lag. There's something wrong with your PS2. Obviously, your DualShock 2 was just not. You hit the button.
I did.
You definitely hit the button.
I did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is a gameplay discussion. I should save this.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
For later. Yeah.
We'll put
totally
it off.
fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
But back to the plot. Jeff, over to you. What do you think?
I think that it is a very scant plot. The plot covers about as much as Ulala's outfits cover her.
True, yeah.
And much like how I imagine most people and what the intention of how we feel about Ulala's outfits, that's fine with me. Because it's one of those where, like Shane said, it never takes itself too seriously. It works within the context of what it's doing. Certainly the stages are specific missions or things that happen that kind of move things along. Most of what the plot happens in cutscenes between the stages that reuse footage.
Yes.
I did notice that.
Puts in mind for me a little bit of Super Milk Chan to then go make another Cartoon Network kind of reference. An anime that would reuse the same animation from episode to episode and just have different dub tracks. I haven't watched it since the first time I watched it over 20 years ago, so I don't know how well it holds up, but it was formative for me at the time. But there again, the plot itself, I did say we would talk about this a little bit. The fact that at the very end of it, the final stage has all kinds of fun plot stuff going on. That's where you actually have what the plot of the game is.
Yes.
It reminds me of there's a shooter game that Squaresoft put out on the PS1, Einhander, that very fun game, very cool game. The final stage has a twist in it that means next to nothing if you're just playing the game. You know, there's betrayals and all these other things and lies about what your mission was, which basically Space Channel 5 has. You're stopping the Malorians, and where do they all come from? Oh, it was your boss the whole time.
Yes.
You know, 4 ratings. Again, that idea of people who tell the truth are inconvenient. We want viewership. Why shouldn't we use television to control people? Now, the notion of television being as strong as it was in 1999 versus what the internet is now, Ulala is basically, if you just change it from TV channel to TikTok channel, influencer channel, whatever it will be in $24.99, it's the same idea. Why not create controversy to create views? Time is a weird flat circle.
Yes. I think, if you just look at media in general throughout its existence, that's always kind of existed.
Yeah.
In one way or another.
Why shouldn't I brainwash people for viewership?
Yes. Let's go ahead and make the monies, brainwash them, entice them, bring them in.
They're dancing, aren't they? It's fun.
No one's really getting hurt, and we're making money. Like, who cares?
Doesn't hurt me personally. I don't see why we have to stop.
But this is especially because it's a news reporting show, and this is really at the dawn of the 24-hour news networks.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had just started becoming popular. CNN had been around for a little bit. Fox News had just kind of come around. I think MSNBC was just starting somewhere around there. And those are the big 3, of course.
Right.
You know.
And
go ahead.
The major established networks that we're seeing in this game have attractive anchors. Pudding is, in fact, a former teen music idol turned journalist. And there again, I don't know why they expect Ulala to have combat training as well as journalism. But you know what? I don't know what she was expected to be covering. So we don't know what Space Channel 5 was intended for. We just know where it went.
Clearly not her legs. Those were not being covered.
They were not. No. She needed access to her ray gun. It was on a little garter holster.
Exactly. They just got in the way.
It's utilitarian, Chris.
Yes.
Unlike the jetpack on her back, I don't know if that's a jetpack or not, but Pudding had one also, and I don't know how it attached.
No, it's the future. It just works.
It's exactly, which in my experience since 1999.
Yeah, it follows the same logic as, the character who sheathes, in air quotes, their giant sword on their back with nothing on their back. I see that happen. So it's one of my pet peeves. I point it out all the time.
It's materia, magnets.
Yes.
How do magnets work?
How do they work?
How do they work?
Well, ICP sure doesn't know.
I do enjoy that revelation at the end of the game because it is a cynical take on news media that also happens to be accurate. And that's, I don't know. I think anyone you ask, it doesn't matter where you are in your thought process. I think everyone has a general idea that like the media takes advantage of panics in order to, just enrich themselves.
Yes.
And they'll always tell the story from the perspective that their audience most wants to hear, at least big corporate news entities.
Yes, it is the shaping of the story.
Yeah, and it's accurate. And at the end, it's not too deep because like they don't really get into it until the very, very end of stage 4 when they're like, oh, the Malorians were brainwashed too. So it's a manufactured crisis that we're just taking advantage of.
The only one who was available was Space Channel 5. Interesting.
Interesting.
This will engender trust.
Pudding was there.
She helped. We stole her guitarist. It's fine.
Yeah. It was for the right reasons. It was just joining us. We have to stop those dirty pirates with Jaguar getting in the middle of everything.
And we got his saxophonist.
Yeah. And I do like that it is covering. I don't want to get too deep here. I feel like I'm getting too deep. I don't care. But it's covering somewhat, realistic concerns about what's actually happening within the world, while as already been put, not taking itself seriously at all. It's like when people would joke about politicians, and kind of still do, but used to be a lot more lighthearted back in the day.
Right.
When they would joke about how they didn't do their jobs and like, Congress sucks. And they still do. But it's just something that people have always known and just kind of poking at it. But it just becomes, sadder playing it today.
It becomes, it's a different experience.
Yeah, very much so. All right. With that depressing finish to that section, let's get into the gameplay. I'll briefly describe it, then I'll hand it over to you, Geoff, because I do want to hear your criticism and critique, because I think I might have some of the same. I'm sure Shane would as well. But gameplay, as we mentioned, this is a rhythm game. It's like Simon, if Simon expected you to maintain a beat. That's the gist of it. The controls are using the D-pad. I don't know if you could use the analog stick. I wasn't brave enough to try it.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
The A button shoots aliens. The B button rescues humans, and you have to pay attention to what's on the screen in order to use the correct button in accordance with the beat that you're prompted with. So aliens will start with something, and you need to repeat it back to them in the exact same beat, which there are opinions I have on that. But Geoff, kick this one off for us. What do you think about the gameplay?
So of the time, most rhythm games were Simon Says gameplay. Parappa the Rapper, Jammer Lammy, that's what they were. If it wasn't scrolling arrows or scrolling something like the Bomani series was doing, this was what rhythm games were. Now then, that out of the way. There is no visual indicator as far as beat or music goes within Space Channel 5. There's motions done by the Malorians or whomever you are antagonist to when doing this, but there is no subtitles for what is being said, and there is no other rhythmic demarcation on this as far as how the beat is quantized. I joked before we started recording that doing a lot of recording stuff is a chance to use my degree. My degree is technically in jazz. I have a music degree. And so I did a lot of ear training, which included rhythmic dictation, which is something is played and you don't need to get the melody. You just write what the beat is. And a lot of how there were a lot of rhythmic lines that happened in this game that felt a lot like rhythmic dictation exercises written by fellow students. Because there's a little bit of the it's not even necessarily wanting to show off. It's you're not having the same idea of what the challenge and what the learning is. So you're just trying to like put stuff in there. So yeah, let's just have a lot of like shoot, 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 left shoot, 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 right shoot, 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 up shoot, or whatever. And I was feeling as though
that was a good representation of that section, by the way.
Yes, I was playing it earlier. And it's like, 5, yep, that's what it is. And so given that there isn't even like a pulsing beat on screen or anything else, the graphics are, the background is full motion video and the characters are just models on top of it. It's very PlayStation Final Fantasy. So they're probably minimizing what they were displaying there, but that ultimately hurts them. And I was dealing with lag, and now that I'm playing it on a less lagged situation, I still have a little bit of suspicion that the way that the voice clips play on this desync and do a disservice as far as playing rhythmically. There is a clear beat and they want you to keep it, and it mostly works, and the rhythmic window is tight. But if you're watching the video, bad idea. You almost need to keep your head down, but you have to watch a little bit, because sometimes you're using the shoot button to save people, sometimes you're using it to hurt people. And those are two different buttons. And one of the things they fixed in Space Channel 5 Part 2 is using the save button is hey instead of chew. So you can just kind of keep your head down on that and just do it, which I find very helpful. But the way I almost imagine it is there's an instrument called the mellotron, which the Beatles used a bunch, that is an organ that the keys play tape loops, literal tape. And so if you hold down the key, it just kind of moves tape along a tape head and plays the sound back, so you can have whatever recorded sounds you want on it, which is a lot like having sound playback in a video game. So if you're hitting those buttons, I feel like sometimes Ulala's voice clips, you had to wait for the entire clip to stop before you start the next one, which led to a lot of dropped notes and dropped issues. And I'd be fine with those if there was any kind of visual indication or feedback visually about why I was off, how I was off. Because the way that I hear what is being said to me, and certainly the way I hear it played back when I'm playing as Ulala, is the bitch is dragging. D is behind the beat. But the way that these are, I actually feel like the moments that were my favorite were when they put a lot of space into the statement. Like the Evilla fight, there was a couple of times where there's only 2 or 3 things you had to hit in maybe a 12-bar phrase. And having to feel that beat and know when to hit it, honestly, it was well suited to the gameplay of Space Channel 5. Whereas a lot of the other like fast ones, and because they are not the same phrase length all of the time, maybe you're doing an up, down, shoot, down, great. Up, down, shoot, down, left shoot. Oh God, I have to just do left shoot. Fuck, I got that wrong. It's quarter muncher behavior. It's stuff that is meant to, if this were an arcade game, I'd understand it and be mad about it. But this is just meant to extend an hour long of gameplay into just get it right. Except if you do better, then you get new phrases. So it's not even memorizing it. And I do love the dynamic gameplay of that. There's a lot in this gameplay that makes me so happy, that makes me, I want to explore it more. But there's a lot of frustrations in here that I just kind of go, this is a product of its time, and this was basically the first rhythm game that Sega was doing, that this team was doing. So, and knowing what they did since, stuff like Rez and Child of Eden and Lumines, they learned from this. This is growing pains, certainly.
Yep. Also, if I think just to your point about being a quarter muncher, I wrote down some notes just to kind of respond because I have a lot of similar things to your thoughts. But this was the first game, I think, that Mizuguchi did that did not originate as an arcade title.
I think so. And Sega is an arcade manufacturer, and this shows in the design.
Yes, absolutely. Very much so.
And the Dreamcast was an arcade machine.
Yes. Arcade perfect machine.
Yes, it was.
Shane, I'll let you go next. What were your thoughts?
I just want to say that I feel vindicated and validated by everything that was just said. And I don't...
Thank you guys for letting me just wander on that one. No,
I love
absolutely.
it. You said everything I was feeling about this game probably more eloquently than I was going to. I have nothing to disagree with there. Everything you said is exactly what my frustrations were playing this game, because though I am not a professional musician by any stretch at all, I like to think that I at least have a decent ear for it. And I feel like that was almost doing me a disservice in this game because I was expecting something to occur that did not. And it threw me so many times. And actually, it's interesting that you brought that up regarding the fact that like watching the screen may actually be detrimental, because I got to a point where I just closed my eyes. I was playing with my eyes closed and on average was doing markedly better than I was when I was trying to watch what was happening. So with some exceptions, because you're right, there are some moments where it's like, oh, you actually need to see like what they're doing in order to understand what you're supposed to do next. But
the boss of stage 2 in particular.
Yeah, exactly. But by and large, yeah, it was too much visual noise that also was not properly syncing up with anything really in my brain. And so just shutting out that stimuli and just focusing on listening to what was happening actually worked much better for me. And I also was supremely irritated by those sudden changes, because you would get it. And this is coming from somebody who played an like inordinate amount of Guitar Hero back in the day. And so the combination of not having a very clear visual indicator of what was supposed to be coming next, coupled with the fact that they were trying to do these like cutesy little dumb things, like going from one, beat to another out of nowhere just to trip you up. I was so so mad about that. Outside of that, I just want to say that it may not be true at all, but literally the rest of my family here in the house can verify this, because I was sitting on the couch yelling like an idiot, that I swear this game misses inputs. And I don't know if that's just my PS2, maybe my controller's borked, I don't know, but I swear to God, I pressed shoot so many times and it just did not read the input at all.
This is what lends to my theory that you need to let the whole clip play. Like there's faster and slower to match it, but you need the whole thing too. So if you're a little behind, but acceptable, you've now screwed yourself. Because also this might be my own lag talking as far as playing the PS2 version through composite on a LCD screen. The thing is, you need that percussive of like the chew, down, left, right, up, chew kind of thing. And I don't think even if you were on a CRT, I don't think you get the percussive spot on the button press. So I'm not even sure if the percussive piece of what Ulala is saying is on the beat. So I'm not sure what their beat indicator is for these clips.
Yeah, like there were, I mean, it was not my best moment, I will say that, but I was sitting there.
I'm sure someone's dumped the data.
Well, no, because I was sitting there and I got to a point where I just like I was just staring wide-eyed and I was looking at my wife and I was like, watch this. And I was like holding the controller and I was like, listen to this phrase. And she was like, okay, up, down, choo, choo, choo. And I was like, okay, watch my buttons. I was like, up, down, choo, choo, choo. And I would miss like one or two of the chews. And I'm like, did you see that? She's like, yeah, I don't know. I was counting right along. And she's a singer. So like, I swear there's something funky going on there, but
right.
Yeah,
It's the pressure sensitive buttons.
Oh yeah, that's
could be, PS2.
Maybe.
I'll blame that.
Let's blame that. And the thing is, all of these can be. There's a lot of angles that you could go at to fix these up, clean these up. If you were to do even just a modern re-release, not a remake or anything else, or just to make it a little better quality of life. Either one that I would say that you do not have to change the gameplay at all. Just make it easier to retry either the level or the sections. Because look, I loved watching the sequences. I love watching the same goddamned unrelenting sassy walk that Ulala has and that everybody else picks up because they are using the exact same model as her, that you can tell because they don't have microphones, but they're holding one. But the thing
unless
is,
you're Michael Jackson,
unless Space Michael, come on.
Yeah,
Space Michael. Sorry.
Space Michael. Use his regal name or whatever his space name. Years before Team 4-Star did it, it was still funny to just call things, Space Captain, Space Michael. Space Michael unlocks Beat It Walk. I do want to beat it, the game. But the thing is, every time I'm like, I got to do that again. I got to try that again. I am all for woodshedding. I am all for let me try that again. Let me get that arcade perfect. And then, okay, let me hear it again. All right, cool. Yeah, great. You know what? Maybe I will take with my new savvy and my funky moves. I'll get to the bottom of this as part of my daily speech. But I didn't have to hear it so many times. But it probably made the game more mimetic for those that played it.
Let me go into some of these issues you brought up, since I think most of it's already been covered anyway. The sync, I don't know if it was because I was using an ODE to play it on my Dreamcast. I didn't really have any sync issues. That also being said, it was easier a lot of the times to just look down at the VMU and get the indicator of what turn it was and just use, the audio cues in order to figure out what was going on. I also when I would look up facts and walkthroughs for this game, just to make sure I wasn't going crazy in some sections. It is noted that there are serious sync issues with this game where things just don't line up.
Yeah.
That is something that's definitely known in some playthroughs. There's no denying that. I didn't really mind the lack of a visual indicator, maybe because I'm psychotic, but it didn't bother me. I think if you have a good flow and you're just feeling the beat and you have no lag, there's a clear indicator of when it's the Malorian's turn and when it's Ulala's turn, because you hear that ding and then you have a certain amount of beats before they start and before you start. It all lines up. And if you have a good flow, for me, it just didn't bother me. There were times it really did bother me, though, because I was like, I swear I had the beat right. I have the beat correct. There's the level, I think it's the start of level 4, where you're flying through space and you have to shoot the asteroids.
The asteroids, that's stage 3. The rest of stage 3 was honestly a joy. I was getting mad at stage 2 and the asteroid part, I got kind of pissed. After that, it was a dream. But the asteroids are rough.
like the first time I played through it, I was like, okay, I was just cruising right through. I had no issues. And then I screwed up at some point. I'm like, I need to restart this because this is not going well.
Mm-hmm.
Just time after, and then for a streak of like 5 to 10 games, I could not hit the asteroids to save my life. And I got pissed. I pulled a Shane. I threw my Dreamcast. Well, I didn't throw my original Dreamcast. I played with the Retro Fighters one. I threw that across the room, and I'm like, screw this. I fucking hate life. Took about 30 minutes to an hour break, came back, and all of a sudden everything was good again. So I'm like, I don't know. I think that goes to another part about the input.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like at times it's forgiving, and there you have a little bit of wiggle room. But then there are other times when it says, no, you have to be exactly on point.
Yes.
Or it's wrong.
And I don't know, again, to how far they like snap the quantizing of the rhythm there, which is to say if it's broken up into 16th notes or 32nd notes and it just, if you're somewhere in between there, it snaps you to the nearest. And that's more than anything. If you want the Simon Says gameplay to be a little more obscured and it's just do your best to watch it, like then you get things like the bosses of Stage 3 where they visually telegraph in a different way, and I was delighted.
Yes.
I think the bigger thing that I would want out of either a visual indicator or something else is not necessarily the steps you want me to take, but the feedback of how I'm doing.
Yes.
Where, again, those times where it feels like something's off with the input. It feels like something's desynced. Is it desynced? Is it lag? Is it me? Is it whatever? And you just need something. Like, how off is it?
And this is something that, starting with DDR and probably the Bimani games, that they did it really well, is that like you had the perfect, good, okay, poor system.
Yeah.
In terms of hitting those beats. It would give you that indicator.
Right.
Whereas you don't have any of that here.
And the thing that, with the Bimani games, that anything above great was an accepted note. It got you points. It didn't lose you life. It was fine. And then good and below became a different thing as far as either breaking combos or losing life, whatever else. And so if you're getting all of the notes working with Ulala, but you're kind of in a weird way, like, I'm getting nothing but greats. I need to lock in a little better. I got to get that a little better. I would love to have that kind of indication, because I think that would prevent a lot of those frustrations while still preserving a lot of how the gameplay is in Space Channel 5. Yeah.
Another thing that irritated me about the sections, because everything is broke down into sections, if you missed one note within an entire section, it was treated like you had the entire section wrong.
Yep. And again, it felt harsh. And given that your point system is just your ratings, it felt even harsher.
Yeah. But if you go on a good roll, like you can, if you go down a good roll, like the first couple stages, if you're doing well, your ratings will be high enough. But by the end of the game, you don't really have to worry about anything other than boss fights.
Oh, absolutely.
And the final boss fights, by the way, fuck those. They can be brutal.
And it's, again, one of those where each one of them on their own is kind of okay. And then the way they just throw them at you. There is a boss fight where they just sort of tell you as it's happening, oh, yeah, by the way, all of the directions are going to be reversed. Oh, so I just have to hit the reverse that. Okay, here we go. And you have that much time.
Yeah. And then like my inputs wouldn't sync. So for a while I thought, is it lying to me? I don't know. I also had to swap out my controller. I went to the original Dreamcast controller because I had those input issues. By the way, the original Dreamcast controller, the crappy little D-pad, that it worked like a dream. Like that was spot on. And I think it's because it's so small that the travel distance, especially for those like more rapid inputs, made a lot better. It was just, it felt more seamless.
Oh yeah. Dreamcast controller, honestly, I know there are plenty of people who like it. I still think it's underrated.
I hate it.
Really?
I'm a hater.
Fair enough.
Big time hater. I think it's a step back from the Saturn 3D controller.
That's fair. The 3D controller was fantastic, but not a lot of people had it. My first experience with that design was the Dreamcast controller.
That's fair then. Because it does have Hall effect joysticks. So something that first parties still don't understand how to make today.
That's weird.
It's fun. No, so for that sequence, I just flipped my controller upside down and then just treated it as.
I somehow, like, I struggled at first. I somehow managed, but I think like you only get two. You only You only get one opportunity to screw up on some of those portions with the last boss.
Right.
And some of those combos are brutal.
And some of the
It's just like,
sections do a good job of giving you, they sort of restore your number of tries. Like I think you get like
Yes.
5 mistakes and then it'll restore. But during the boss gauntlet at the end, doesn't do that at all. So
it did actually for me.
okay, maybe I got it wrong. Because the first time I got into the dimension with blank, I missed like once or twice and that was it.
At the very, very end. And by the way, if you miss the very last combo, it's game over. And you have to replay the entire stage, which is like 30 minutes long, all over again.
And that's the other thing. Again, have a checkpoint, or at least you made it to the boss. You can retry at the boss. Cool. Nope. No, the first time that happened and it went back to the start of the stage, I got up and walked away and had to take a break.
Yeah, like why? I wish I had save states. I wish I wasn't playing this on original hardware. I hate you, Space Channel 5. Last thing I want to bring up that you brought up that I loved was the dynamic gameplay. And the first time I really, really noticed it, which is weird, was I can't remember her name, the Ulala doppelganger boss.
Evila?
Evila. That's it. Evila. She was kicking my ass.
Yeah.
The first couple times. And then I made it to the last section and I would notice like one time I kept on getting the first input right for the first couple times, and I noticed it kept getting progressively harder because I was hitting it correctly. And then one time I just completely boffed it on the first input on like the second segment. And then the next segment was easier. I was like, wait, there's no clear through line. It's actually reacting to how I'm playing this game. Whoa, this is cool. This is going to make it easier. Maybe I should fail more often, or don't. But I do appreciate the fact there is some grace there that the game does recognize. Okay, the player is struggling a little bit. Let's kind of throw them a bone right now and see if they can recover. And I think the game does do a good job of that up until the very final boss.
Right. A lot of the design of Space Channel 5 as a game feels like thoughtful, good, experienced game designers applying what they've learned to a genre they've not worked with. A genre that was very new at the time. Certainly.
Yes.
And some things worked really well. Some things are just good design no matter what. Some things do not work.
No. Like choo 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 up choo left right choo 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 whatever that was. Whenever it wanted to do rapid inputs, I was just like
yeah.
This is not happening.
And sometimes you got visual indicators there. Like again, towards the final bosses, that one where you have to do reverse inputs for the shots, it shows how many of them there are, or when the Malorians are jumping out, how many of them there are. That isn't perfect, but it does help a little bit. There's moments like that.
Until it doesn't recognize your inputs.
Until it doesn't recognize your inputs. But yeah, like Evila, no, you're screwed. She's just going to be doing all that. And I love that they make her Russian. I am best reporter. She sounds like Brennan Lee Mulligan being Bola in the Critical Role thing. It's like, I'm Bola, I'm reporter.
No, yeah.
If there's any Critical Role fans, you're welcome. But that's where I heard it. But just the same, like, oh yeah, you're gonna have like the 1960s spy throwback, of course.
Of course, Natasha.
I've created evil. She is perfect reporter. I only tell what blank says.
Absolutely.
Etc.
It's so good. All right, Shane, I know we've kept you kind of quiet over there. Anything more you want to add?
Man, you ain't kept shit. I just decided to be quiet. No, I mean, nah, man, there's not really too much more to add there. I think there was one thing. Okay, the other thing, and this just might be my smooth brain like approach to this, but there was a certain threshold for me, because you were talking about how, when you get to those rapid inputs, you just kind of like throw up your hands and you're just like, all right, whatever. And like, I'm letting that one go. The rapidity of it was not the issue for me so much as the number of expected inputs that I was supposed to memorize, like in a given like phrase. There was a threshold where I was just like, okay, man, I can remember like maybe half a dozen. And then once we get past that point, my brain just is like, nope, I don't know. I lost the rest of them. And I think part of that is because there's just a lot of stimulus overload in this game too. Like if you're not closing your eyes while you're trying to play, that I was just
It's
like,
a beautiful game.
it is.
Yes.
It is. Which functions as a really good segue to the next part. But like, I just think there's so much going on that I just couldn't feasibly keep more than like half a dozen moves in my brain at any given time. And so once it started getting into those longer pieces, I was just like, I'm gonna assume I remember maybe some of this and just kind of hope for the best.
I find it much easier to hold these things and take on a lot of complicated directions when I know where they end. If everything is a 4-bar phrase, I could start expecting that. If everything is, if it changes to 2 bars for a little while, cool, start 2 bars. When it becomes those things where it's like, again, stage 4, let's go to Ulala. There's like a up, down, right, down, one of those. It's like, okay, cool, it does that. And then it does that again and adds a few, okay? And it does that a few and then adds on. Maybe that's fine, maybe that's not. I know that's Simon. But when you don't quite have a warning or anything, as far as it might even be useful in the visual back and forth between Malorian and Ulala to have like a gradient of it's approaching or something. But I'm not sure. That does throw things off. If I had to give like a summation of like gameplay, presentation, whatever, of Space Channel 5 in one of those, it's this meets this meets this. Space Channel 5 feels like a missing link between Parappa the Rapper and Gitaru Man, built by the primordial ooze of Rez.
That fits. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure a lot of people will listen to that and be like, what? No, but it makes sense. Trust him on this.
You have the Simon Says gameplay of Parappa the Rapper and that play back and push back. You have some interesting combative portions and trippy presentation and space storyline of Gitaru Man, and sort of the vibes feeling and that shooter aspect goes into Rez and those sort of future builds for the team.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. There was something that you said, Shane, that maybe the very last thing before we segue into graphics here. I think that's a good point that you both made. When you have an expectation of where it's going to end, then it's fine.
Yeah.
In these segments. But it'll be like up, down, up, left, right. Choo, choo, choo. Okay. And then it'll be right. And it's like, we just went from like a 2 to 3 bar segment into a single note segment.
Yeah.
And then into like another bar into another single note. And then they just speed it up. And I think that goes back to your quarter munching standpoint, where it's just, let's throw a curveball at the player. It's okay to build, but they're just building. It's let's build and then let's crash into a wall, reset, and then put them right back at where they were built at.
Well, it's not even it's not even that. The thing that actually irritated me more was the Simon-esque like angle where they're like, okay, here's one like phrase. Okay, you got that. All right. And then we're going to add this extra thing on, but it's not on the same like beat. Like they're just tacking shit on to the same thing. It's not like they're completely changing it up to like, oh, here's a different section. They're implying that this is all like the same thing that they're just incrementally building on, but it's like not following the same rules. And it just completely throws you off.
Yeah. Well, I share Chris's feeling on sometimes giving me just one direction means that that's exactly how long the phrase is and I've already lost. Or you do like right. Wait a couple beats. All right. Right. Which they do to great effect when finishing up certain sections where you have that last like ba, ba, ba cadence to taking out 3 cameras, 3 enemies every time you finish those up. And how you finish the game. Well, you finish the final boss. Finishing the game, did either of you get tripped up by the last input after the credits?
Yes.
There's one last input, everybody. Spoilers. There again, using that space, hilarious. Because you can't lose the game there, it just messes with your rating. I think it's fine. I think it's like those desperation attacks at the end of a Castlevania stage where it won't kill you. It just, if you had a perfect fight or something, it trips you up kind of thing. It can't ruin you. It just knocks you down a peg. So I found it funny.
It's laughing at you.
Yeah.
It's laughing at you. You thought you'd get 100%, huh?
No,
Think again.
No, but the game is for all people who love music, dance, and game. according to the
Yes.
credits.
Yes. But let's get into the graphics. We've kind of talked about this already, where it has 3D models over full motion video. Shane, go ahead and kick this one off. What do you think of the game's visual presentation?
I always love me a good aesthetic choice, and this game definitely has a clear like vision of what it was going for, and it goes for it like 110%. And I really appreciate that about it. It's also one of those things, and we've said this numerous times on the show, that if you're picking a very distinctive style, generally speaking, that's something that's going to stand the test of time better than if you're trying to shoot for an approximation of realism, because that tends to age very poorly, particularly when you're talking about like early polygonal titles, right? So
The sharpest edge dulls fastest.
exactly. So and I think it holds true here as well. That, I mean, can I make a commentary on like this versus contemporaneous other games? Not really, because I didn't friggin' have any of them. So I'm gonna leave that up to the two of you. But coming at it basically fresh now on a PS2. Granted, that came out a little bit later, so maybe it's slightly more gussied up. But I mean, I still think it looks fantastic. I mean, to be fair, this type of game, and not to be like reductive or anything, because that's not my goal here, but it's not like from a visual standpoint, it's not like there needed to be a lot, right, that needed to be done, because it's very, very focused in what it's doing. It's not like you're trying to explore some vast world. So there's a lot there to allow the developers to be very precise in what they are showing you and what they're not showing you, without getting too technical. So like culling and whatnot and all that good stuff means that you should be getting really good performance out of something like this, because you have these very tightly focused, sort of scenes that you have no control over. So they know exactly what you should be seeing at any given time. And so the result, especially with like a rhythm game like this, you would hope, even despite our commentary about perhaps some of the desyncing issues, but I think that's more of an auditory thing. Mm-hmm. Visually, the game runs buttery smooth. And I think the 60s retro futuristic space aesthetic, it works, man. Like I really like it. Like it's absurd, I think, in the right ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think this game is an example where style conquers everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like because I look at it substance wise. If I look at the visuals in terms of its technical prowess, if I'm judging it against other Dreamcast games, I could sit here and say that technically, I think like Sonic Adventure 1 is a far superior game in terms of visuals. It certainly doesn't come close to a Soul Calibur. It's nowhere near the same realm. Like, and for example, like if you look at the character models, they're relatively basic. There's not a lot going on. Jeff already talked about there isn't a lot of diversity in what the characters are doing and how they're modeled. They're all essentially just doing what Ulala is doing. Even though you have a bunch of character models, even those character models aren't like, they don't have a lot of fine detail. But what they do have is personality.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And that's where this game delivers in spades. Even when it's like making egregious graphical sins, when you have like at the second half of stage 1, when Ulala is walking across the top of this full motion video sphere thing, they're like, watch your footing. Like, you shouldn't be walking on that, because you could tell like she's not on a flat surface. It's obviously running on a full motion video in the background with these 3D models in front of it, which looks corny and cheesy as fuck. It just doesn't, like, I'm looking at this, it feels budget, but just the way the characters move, how they are animated, how they come across, when you're doing a good job and the dance moves they do kind of like in the intermission. I remember against Evola, and you have Jaguar and Pudding and Ulala like just waving their arms in circles and stuff like that. It's like, it's everything about it just oozes style so much. I can't help but like love every second of it. It's just like, I'm just smiling the entire time. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Oh, I love the attitude that is said before, the sassiness of everything that is happening in every moment. How Ulala just carries herself with such confidence. This game carries itself with confidence from its visual presentation. And it's just such a delight. And I can look at it and be like, yes, I recognize that visually this isn't up to the standard of a high-end Dreamcast game, but it doesn't really matter because of just how it presents itself to the player. And we can go into like the how it syncs with the gameplay. I think we've talked and kind of beat that to death a little bit. But in terms of just the visual style and the presentation of what is giving the player in that aspect is wonderful, for lack of any other word. That's I think one of the main attractions, in conjunction with the sound we'll get to in a little bit. But it's just like I don't even care. It looks like it was done with, you know, a lower budget. It like they made it work. They knew what it was. They knew what their task was, and they were just like, yeah, we'll just focus all of our efforts in making sure that these people are moving in a dance way that's just very expressive, and it 100% works.
Right. They had choreographers on staff. I don't know if they did motion capture, but they certainly had real dance incorporated into what was going on. So in those ways, it pays off well. And I very much agree, Shane. Like, it's deliberate design in what is going on here. And certainly to the fact that this was early enough 3D. If you're doing kind of that Z-Rust 1950s, 60s in the future throwback, everything is going to be smooth and reflective surfaces. The reason why, you know, your first ray tracing art piece is going to be a reflective sphere is because that shit looks cool. And if you're doing polygons, you have that same kind of slick smoothness to it. It looks like what it's meant to. If you tried to do that with a From Software game, it would look like it was lacking texture. But if you're doing those smooth Men in Black, Austin Powers, late 90s sci-fi with a 60s throwback feel, then yeah, it matches up. That's exactly what it's supposed to be, or certainly feels like how it's supposed to be. On top of the fact that, yes, technically this is kind of an FMV game. You're doing simple inputs as things that are commanded to you while an FMV plays. This is just a fancy Sega CD game. How does that feel?
It's sexy sewer shark.
It is sexy. It is sexy sewer shark. Your name is dog meat. How does that feel? But there again, it is to what it wants to be. One of my favorite games of all time is Katamari Damacy. Is that using the full power of the PlayStation 2? No. But those smooth textures and the personality in it is everywhere. And it is in those utterly bizarre bananas design decisions that happen. As well as the fact that, did either of you read the character profiles?
I did not.
Mm-mm.
And I feel bad.
I highly recommend you do. Everyone you play as, everyone you save, you unlock a character profile for them. And they're just little brief things. Some of them will be like, you know, you find out that Ulala's favorite ice cream flavor is cherry vanilla. But you also find out that one of the children is secretly plotting the demise of their parents. Or that there is an adult that everyone ostracized because she claimed she could hear the gods. But now that she's been proven right, only time will tell. And it's like, we're not going to follow that up. Space Channel 5 is a rich and varied world with deep lore that will never be explored. Maybe we should have bought more copies. They probably wouldn't have explored it anyway. But
probably not.
But the thing is, yeah, it looks exactly as it needs to. And I'm sure there's cool graphical things you could do nowadays, but they kept the polygon count low, which is why you also got those Rob Liefeld-ass feet on everybody, where they're boots like Mega Man with just a point to them.
Yeah.
You don't need to have articulated feet. This isn't that kind of fan service. Jesus.
Makes it
Stop that.
Yeah, no. Makes it easier to have platform boots, too.
Makes it so much easier to have platform boots. I'd walk around on more platforms if it was that easy.
No, you know, okay. This is something I say a lot about games that like really brings me to them, that really, you know, attracts me to them overall, regardless of their quality. If you can tell the developers were having fun.
Yeah.
if you could tell they were enjoying themselves.
Did they understand the assignment?
Yeah. Yes. I tend to enjoy the game a lot more. So when you go over character profiles, they're just ridiculous and absurd. And there's no real reason to make these character profiles in the way that they are.
No.
You know that they're just having a go at it. They're like, what can we do here to just entertain ourselves? Like, what is going, like, they had free, it feels like they had free reign to do what they wanted to do. And just like, how can we have fun? This is fun. Like, do you know the story of why they're called Malorians?
I do not.
So I think someone on their staff.
Oh, I think I can guess.
Had the nickname Moro.
Oh, I did not guess correctly.
And I think she thought that the aliens were funny. So they started calling the aliens. They named the aliens after her on the development staff. And so they, like, the entire race of aliens just named off of one of their staffers that just thought everything was funny and that she'd enjoyed having it named after her. Like, that's how you know everyone's in on it and everyone's in on the joke and everyone's in on the game. It feels like it must have been a blast to work on this game. I mean, aside from probably the crunch of the late 90s and so on and so forth, but like it felt like that team was probably pretty close and really enjoyed each other's company. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, I agree. Fun translates from the creation to its execution and everything else. And yeah, a game doesn't need to be everything. A game just needs to be exactly what it is. And some games fall apart even at that. Space Channel 5 is many things. It does not fall apart there.
No.
It sings.
Yes. Speaking of singing, now it's time to get into the sound and music department and what we think there. This is a music game, so you would expect the music to be good. And generally, yes, like I think the music is very catchy. Austin Powers themes, the late 60s, everything like that. Like the music's really good. Music is, as a singular track, really good. A couple things, though, that I do need to point out. One, it's not incredibly varied.
No.
Every single time before you start your dance-off segments, you have the same beat that introduces it, and essentially the same song throughout the entire game to do the beat to. It's not too differentiated. That's not too much of a problem until you get to levels that become difficult. And you keep hearing the same song over and over and over and over again, especially if you make it later into the level, which we talked about in gameplay, like at the last stage. And and these levels are 20 to 30 minutes long, and you have to play it all from the beginning over and over and over again. Then the music, to me, it got a little old and tired, and I was like, I am done hearing this song. I want a different song. I need something different. This is the 5th time I've played this. Oh my God. Like, I guess that you could say that for a lot of rhythm games, but because of the compactness, because of where rhythm games were at that time, regardless of the quality, it can, for me, it started to get grating until I was like, okay, I have the entire level down. Now I'm feeling it. Let's go. But it almost feels like a failure to make it past level. It like takes a good product and kind of deteriorates it in a way, because it has that kind of negative feeling to it, especially because there's not that quick reaction, where I think a lot of like a DDR, like a song is 2 to 3 minutes
at most,
and then it's at most, and then it ends, and then you have to pick another song. You're not going to like go 20 minutes in a DDR song and then be like, oh, you failed. Restart it. It's a completely different experience. I know, it's like apples to persimmons, but it's in the same realm.
There is technically the Oni courses in Dance Dance Revolution, but those are a thing you have to choose. It's not the core gameplay.
Exactly. So while I love the sound, I'm specifically the soundtrack here, and I do think it's great. It's fun. It's expressive, but I think it could have benefited from a little bit more variety. And the only variety you find is really in some of the stage bosses where it gets a little bit more unique. But outside that, I hate to say it, but it kind of gets old by the end of the game, especially if you're struggling.
Yeah, it definitely can build that frustration point because of the friction. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not sick of Mexican Flyer yet, which is the name of the track. It is the track that is at the title screen. It is, at this point, Ulala's theme, because it was composed by Ken Woodman back in the 60s. It was recorded by Ken Woodman and the Piccadilly Brass, but Sega owns the rights to it now.
Really?
Yeah. This was something where, I mean, Ken Woodman passed away not long after Space Channel 5 came out, but he was just like, you guys want to use it? Honestly, that's kind of cool. And so things were negotiated. And so Sega is able to, whereas in other games, we're running into this nowadays with digital distribution and everything else where, well, we had the rights for that one version and now we can't do it anymore. Sega can use the motifs from Mexican Flyer and everything else and make it Ulala's theme. And so
That's cool.
There's probably some argument to be had there. And I wonder about the format of audio they were using for this game. Maybe they were focusing on making it the best quality because a Dreamcast disc it held more than a CD, but not as much as a DVD. So I wonder how much of the storage was actually the music they had, which I would argue probably also affected animations and graphics. But I wanted to wait till this section to bring that up. But
I mean, I'm sure it could.
Yeah. Again, as I said before, somebody has definitely dumped the data of this game and can answer all of these questions and is so mad at us right now. Even if they're not listening.
Well,
they don't know why. They're just mad.
they can be mad. Let them be mad.
It's going to be fine. This is fine.
Yeah.
The world is the world. But my big frustration point where it intersects with gameplay is, I mean, same with you, Chris, where it's kind of okay, I get it. Also, this was during the time of, there was good voice acting in video games by the year 2000. It wasn't an expectation necessarily, as it might be nowadays. So hokey voice acting in the year 2000 in a video game was just kind of like they've got that. And so more than anything for me, hearing the same motif over and over, yeah, that grates a little. But hearing the same opening dialogue every single time, that gets to me on a professional level and on a personal level. That sort of thing pissed me off way back when. I have to watch the boss cut scene again. It was cool. But now I've died, and I have to watch a 40-second boss cutscene. Yes, you're powering up. Yes, you have everything you need. Yes. Oh my God, I got to phase 2 of you, you motherfucker. This kind of thing. So there's that. And so you have that cool little motif playing, and then the gameplay starts, and it's suddenly a different tempo. They did that from the first phrase in the first stage. Why they couldn't just have it follow the tempo? It speeds up from phrase to phrase. That's cool. But the very first phrase you do is actually faster than what they've been like hyping you up with at the title screen and at the beginning of the game. I find that a little frustrating.
Yes. I didn't notice that, but yes.
I replayed the first stage a lot because I wanted to do better. I'd beaten it, but I wanted to do better.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I heard it a lot.
You got to get the highest. You got to get the ratings.
The ratings. The
ratings.
The plot was about the ratings. Am I fighting blank by getting poor ratings? Or am I only hurting myself by not doing well enough? These are the questions we ask ourselves when we play games like Space Channel 5. Deep philosophical questions from Space Channel 5, as there should be.
Philosophy of Space Channel 5. Shane, what's your thoughts?
I really don't have too much more to add there. I think the only thing that really stood out to me was the percussion or lack thereof. I wanted it to be a little bit more present in the mix, and I feel like it wasn't. And I feel like that's kind of a fairly serious problem when it's a rhythm game. So I would have liked that, because I really was trying to rely on that to kind of keep the beat for most of the game. And I feel like that just sort of compounded some of the issues that I had with it. But apart from that, I mean, just at a high level, I thought it was pretty good. I like the soundtrack. I enjoy me some good, hokey voice acting. And so I think I want to say that, was it Jaguar? Yeah.
Jaguar.
I think he might be my favorite.
He's pretty good.
Yeah. But
I think he's the voice of Sam in the Telltale games for Sam and Max.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, but no, overall, I generally enjoyed it. But yeah, I just really wish that the mix might have been a little bit better, just for mechanical reasons, if for nothing else.
Yeah. I think the other comment that I would like to make and thing to point out is I do enjoy some of the dynamic stems of the music. When you rescue somebody or recruit somebody who is an instrumentalist, they start playing.
Yes.
In stage 4, I always had to save the keyboard girl. I mean, I wanted to save everybody. But you save her, and then a totally sick keyboard solo just starts playing on top. She is going to town on that keyboard. And I appreciate that. And I also, by the same token and in opposition, enjoy that when you fail to save people and the level continues, you get this kind of sad, let the air out of the band version of Mexican Flyer playing. And like their walking is kind of dejected too, but like the fact that it gets a little out of tune and a little discordant is fun.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And speaking of mix, at the end of the first stage, the music is playing. They're all walking off their, unceasing march out into the stars as they do throughout the game. It's offbeat. And it drove me up the wall. It may happen in other ones, but that was the one where I was like, no. I want that same way that when you're playing a racing game and you think if you throw your body one way, you can steer harder. Like I was just trying to will the beats to match up. But that's an aesthetic choice, nothing else. But again, to the dynamic gameplay, there is dynamic soundtrack as well. So again, small game, feels like it could be budget, but there's a lot going on in here.
By the way, I know this is an audio format media that we are presenting you with here, but you also should have seen Jeff's face when he was talking about that. You could feel the frustration of it being out of sync. It was palatable.
You got to feel it physically to have it in your voice.
Yes. It was right there. Let me get to the voice acting. I think hokey voice acting can accentuate the experience in the right type of setting. I think Space Channel 5 is that setting. I think I don't want any other type of voice acting here. I like the goofiness. I appreciate it because this game is already goofy. That over the top kind of B-level voice acting, I think fits this game incredibly well. I couldn't really see it in any other direction. Maybe it could have been better. I am not a voice actor. You are. So I will take your word on this. I thoroughly enjoyed it, though. However, one issue I did have when it comes to the voice acting and everything else is the mixing isn't consistent, which was a major problem of this era.
Yes.
So the levels were never consistent throughout the game. Sometimes the voices would be nice and clear. Sometimes they'd be drowned out by the music. Again, this is just something that it took a while for developers to understand when they got into the voice acting and how to balance everything out. This is just across the spectrum, but it's there in Space Channel 5, and I have to mention it. Sometimes it just doesn't work out well.
Absolutely.
Another thing that also pertains to the gameplay is sometimes the filter they use on the Malorians, it's hard to understand what they're saying. So you could be doing left or right. And sometimes I had a hard time understanding if they were saying left or right or maybe up or down. And that goes more with the visual representation of what they're doing. But sometimes their movement I wouldn't say subtle because it's not incredibly subtle, but it's either fast enough or maybe I'm not paying attention. I'm trying to listen more. That one movement is hard to understand just because that filter is rather strong, that warble that they add to it.
Subtitles would have been a nice option.
Fantastic option.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're 100% right. Especially if they wanted to put any of those filters on the Malorians, which I understand why they would.
Oh, yeah.
It's part of the entire thing here. But it does get in the way of gameplay a little bit when you're trying. The entire point is to be very precise with your inputs and knowing what those inputs are. That would have been good.
Yeah, the first time I was playing through stage 4, I had the air conditioner on in my living room, and I utterly biffed it at Ulala because I couldn't hear what she was saying. I just kind of heard the mechanical movement and thought she was unintelligible. And then later on, I'm like, oh, well, that makes it a little easier, but it still is tricky because of those mixing issues. And I agree. Hokey voice acting is a choice and a wonderful thing. Over the top is a great choice. It's not every choice, but it's a great choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think where it falls apart for the voice acting here is when the performance is flat, where there is a clear, you're just getting a read. Like one of those, like, hey, let's get him, Ulala. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
And Ulala has some big performances there too. And a little bit of like the vocal fry to how she does stuff. That's like a lot of fun. But there's there's moments where it's like, they got to take. Cool.
The intro, is the intro to stage 4 or the intro to the final stage where all the Malorians are sitting at the desk and Blank's at the back?
Yeah, that's stage 4. That's the final stage.
That's the final stage. When she walks in and she says something and she's holding the mic up to her mouth for a long time and you can see her mouth moving, but it's just like dead silent for like a good 3-4 seconds. It's like localization issue. She's probably saying a lot more in the Japanese version, and they did not compensate for this whatsoever.
Why do it at that point?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, it's like, it's one of those. It's another aspect of the game that is ambitious but uneven.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. Next up is our patron pontifications. What are the patron pontifications? Well, we throw up our game du jour to our patrons with an adequate amount of time, and we ask their thoughts for the episode that we are talking about currently. And if you want to provide your thoughts on episodes and have them read here, just head on over to our Patreon. You can join for as little as $1 a month, and you can either put your thoughts in our Patreon post or in our Discord, where we have patron pontifications. By the way, Discord is free to join. You don't have to pay anything. Just come on over. But
they'll try to make you pay money, but we don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to pay money.
You don't have to. But have you considered Nitro? Discord Nitro can get you all kinds of dynamic gifts regardless of server. Join Discord Nitro today. Don't
sponsor us.
Don't, please.
I don't have Nitro.
I don't work here. Doesn't matter.
All right. Let's start with Randall, our resident PC shill. And Randall says, I was going to make some sort of quip about Space Channel 5's Ulala being the only truth-seeking reporter in today's age, but given the twist at the end, this game hits way too close to the American corporate standards of today than I'd like to admit. Yes.
Yeah, we are aligned, Randall. We are aligned.
Man, I gotta go and make it real like that, Randall. God. All right, next up, we've got Van Fernal from the Super Garbage Day podcast, who says, I remember going to Babbage's and seeing this game in the Dreamcast display kiosk and giving it a shot. My buddy and I couldn't stop talking about how stupid this game was the whole time. 15 minutes later, I left the store with the game, and it unironically became one of my favorite Dreamcast games of all time. I score it a groove evening out of 10.
Yeah, sometimes a dumb game is a wonderful game. Another one of my favorite games of all time is Trombone Champ.
Oh, I need to play that still.
You should. It's it is a 10 out of 10 for me. It's not a 10 out of 10 for everybody, but it's a game that knows exactly what it is, executes it well, and my God, it's fun.
I was the tromboner for 4 years.
My trumpet is still in this booth.
That's awesome.
So yeah, there again, the brass drew me in, and then the baboons kept me going.
Why? As they would.
As they would. I like that you gave Lethco their own font. The next one is from Lethco of Afterglow Podcast. I'll be listening to see if this game is worth playing, because I have never played it. Although I do own it on Steam when I bought the Sega Dreamcast collection over there before Sega pulled it down. I do agree. Yeah, the fact that it was delisted is of great frustration to me. One of the points when I got frustrated and was like, screw stage 4, fuck it, I'll play it on PC. I couldn't, because it was delisted over 6 months ago.
There's other ways to play it on PC.
And I don't know. There absolutely are, and I'm playing them. But, and I legally own all of the pieces with which I'm doing that, so screw it. However, the fact that that does remove probably the modern way to play it, if somebody listens to this and wants to join in on this insanity, it's tricky. Maybe this means Sega is setting up for another collection, but this is, again, the dark side of, companies will just keep their legacy going. Nintendo Switch Online is fine. Sega does release a lot of their games on modern consoles until they don't. So...
Yeah, I think that was the hope when they pulled all that down, that they would eventually just, they had another way put out their way of packaging the games, but they still haven't.
It's been 6 months, so I don't know. Yeah. I feel like that's still a reasonable amount of time, but I'm sweating a little.
Not holding my breath either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Lethko, I'm glad you have a chance to play it. I hope you do.
At least there's physical copies out there for the Xbox 360. I don't know about the PS3, but I know 360
I think just the 360. It was a PC kind of thing.
Yeah. Right. Next is Lucas from the Game Over Hell YouTube channel. And Lucas says, Space Michael or Miracle Johnson? Who'd win in a dance-off? Never played this, but it's a Sega game, so of course I will. Someday.
They actually imply in the profiles that Space Michael Jackson is the same Michael Jackson from the Moonwalker game for Sega Genesis.
That's awesome.
So the Space Michael's 500 years old.
and
the voice acting
and also a car
is provided by Michael Jackson.
Yes. I believe Space Channel 5 Part 2 was the very last game that Michael Jackson collaborated with Sega upon. That was around legal troubles, and I think for the special edition release, they removed a lot of his voice stuff.
Oh, wow.
I can't confirm that part, though.
That would explain a lot about Sonic 3.
Ayo. Well, no, yeah, there was compositions that were provided by Michael Jackson. I will not speak right now off the top of my head about Sonic 3, but other ones as well.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, next we have The Emperor. Coming off the heels of Parappa the Rapper, this game, Space Channel 5, was fun. That's a weird way to put it, Emperor, but I'll allow it. I played it up to the end of the 3rd level. That big blob with all the tentacles beat me to where I didn't want to play it anymore. Plus, I remember there must have been some controller lag on my setup. Yeah, I said that too. I was pressing the buttons at the right time, but the game registered them offbeat. If given the choice of 2 games, I'd rather play Parappa the Rapper instead of Space Channel 5. I don't think I could really begrudge you that one.
I will.
I swear I pressed jump.
Yeah. I will say, in the midst of trying to play Space Channel 5 and get used to the lag, I kind of had a, screw this, I feel insane. And I did a full playthrough of Jammer Lammy. A, just to feel like I still got it. And 2, to make sure, just to kind of tune in on like, okay, where does lag feel right now? How does feel for beating everything else? Cool. Like I just did a full playthrough, no fails, off we go. Cool. Yeah. All right. Space Channel 5, let's try it again. And it actually helped a lot. Maybe it just was getting in the music mindset. But yeah, I did choose sort of Parappa over Space Channel 5. But then I went back and had a good time with Space Channel 5.
Mm-hmm.
Our next pontification is from Sega Boy 7. Oh, Sega, you used to try and do something new and think out of the box. Space Channel 5 came from this time and was weird, quirky, over the top, but also pretty fun. Dreamcast era Sega, you are missed.
I agree with a lot of that. Dreamcast era Sega was on another... They were on something else.
It had Seaman.
In the best way possible. Yes, that's all you need to say. Seaman.
Not often that you put it like that. That's all you need to say. But say one word. Seaman.
Seaman.
Seaman. Seaman.
Seaman.
Sea under man. Seaman.
Yes. 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 Has anybody seen any sailors? All right.
I'm looking for the man who killed my father. You want to talk about flat performances and voice acting?
Next is from Alt. And Alt says, every time I see this game, I think of Blasto on PS1 because of the girls Uresco in it remind me of the pink-haired girl. Which is Ulala. That's me. And for some reason, I think Steam only has or had part 2. I'm not sure if this was a victim of their current culling of games. It was. I know nothing about this game besides seeing ads in magazines back in the olden days. Thank you, Alt.
All right, and last but not least, rounding out the pontification list, we have the one, the only, Ray Ray, who says, The reason why I wanted a Dreamcast was because of 2 games. Shenmue, it's funny you bring that up, and Space Channel 5. I've always had a soft spot for rhythm games, and I thought the soundtrack and gameplay were fantastic. Some have said that it's too short of a game, but I think it's just right. The difficulty escalates at the end, sure, but overall, it's a fun time had by all, with the great music and dance numbers. Plus, there are also alternate paths, depending on how high the TV ratings go. And of course, who doesn't love seeing Mike in another Sega game?
All right. Thank you, Ray Ray. And that concludes our patron pontifications, which means now it is time for us to give our opinions on whether or not this game holds up today. Once again, we hold to tradition and what we are wont to do. So myself and Shane will go first before letting Geoff have the final word before we close this episode out. I will take it upon myself to go first as to whether or not I think this game holds up. And I say it does hold up, but it holds up for mostly its style. In fact, overwhelmingly its style. This game is just a tour de force in how it presents itself to you. It's fun. There's no way you can convince me to hate this game. This game can throw all the frustrations in the world. I can hit all the notes I swear to God I hit, and it tells me I didn't. It can kick my ass in the last stage and tell me to replay it 4 or 5 times. I have never walked away from this game hating it. And even at my most frustrated, which I was when I played this game, I wanted to immediately go back to it. It's so endearing. It's so heartwarming. It's just one of those games that maybe it's my just super strong nostalgia goggles, but it's one of those games that makes me happy. It's one of those games. It's just a joy to play. The music, the way everyone's moving on screen, it's just like, this is so cool. Everything about this is as Sega Boy 7 said, Dreamcast era Sega, which is a special era of Sega that I don't think can ever really be replicated ever again. It was a really special time, especially, for me, who was 15 years old, 15 years old at the time. I mean, that's an age thing, formative years kind of thing on top of it. Mm-hmm. It may be heavy nostalgia goggles, because I will admit this is more of a style over substance vote of confidence here. But yeah, I say it absolutely holds up if you have a spare hour and a half of your time. It's not very long. And it's goofy fun, and I absolutely adore it. So yes. How about yourself, Shane?
Well, I think I'm going to be the one that's going to get crucified, because I'm going to go ahead and say that I don't think this holds up for a few reasons. You could just watch it on YouTube. And I know you could say that about like literally anything, right? But when we're talking about a game that by all accounts takes an hour and a half tops to get through, and we're really just saying that the aesthetics are kind of the selling point, you could just save yourself the frustration of missed inputs and weird offbeat bullshit and just watch a playthrough and get pretty much the same exact experience with like significantly less cortisol buildup. So it's hard for me to recommend as something that someone should go and play today. And that's not even taking into account, the things that Geoff pointed out earlier about how Sega has now made it practically functionally impossible to even play this game unless you are going to go like I did and buy a copy on eBay for like $60. So yeah, no, man, like I'm not saying it's a bad game. Okay. I want to be very clear about that. I love the way that this game presents itself. I think the style just oozes out of this thing. I love the characters. Basically, I like everything except the gameplay, which is why I feel like this is just a really great thing to like take an hour and watch on YouTube to get the same experience.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Geoff, take us home with Super Sexy Sewer Shark.
So Super Sexy Sewer Shark, otherwise known as Space Channel 5. I love this question of does it hold up today? Because I've given the hot take that no one should play Pokemon Red and Blue anymore, unless you have nostalgia for it.
I would actually agree with you.
And it's that kind of a thing. And to that extent, that was the thing of frustration of a genre. Space Channel 5 as an example of rhythm games and rhythm of its time, holds up. As a complete gameplay experience that doesn't overstay its welcome, holds up. As a fun gameplay experience with which to throw its expected game time at, does not hold up. If you are somebody who enjoys rhythm games, play this game. Enjoy this game. Go for this game. If you're an RPG fan, don't go play Pokemon Red and Blue. If you're a Pokemon fan, don't play Pokemon Red and Blue. If you are a rhythm game fan, yeah, this is one where watch the playthrough. If you want to play it, you're correct. If you don't want to play it, you're also correct. If you want the Space Channel 5 experience, I do recommend Part 2. I don't think they ever released Part 1 for PC. The Dreamcast Collection only was Part 2. They clean up a lot of this. They don't make it perfect. They don't make it amazing. But it is still Space Channel 5, and they do clean it up a little bit. And I think if this comes back, if we do get a new Dreamcast Collection from Sega, or we get this as part of something, this will be a selling point for me. And I think it holds up as that. I think if this were a standalone game, I would not want to pay more than $9.99 for it. If it were a $4.99 game on Steam, I would buy this in an instant. It is absolutely that. It is worth time and money today. It is not worth forgetting. I would put it like that.
Very well said. And now I am in a panic mode because I thought that Space Channel 5 was part of the Dreamcast collection. Oh no. I had put that in the brief history. I thought it was part of it.
It might be one of those where Dreamcast Collection had a couple of volumes, but I want to say Space Channel 5 Part 2.
Oh no. I'm a horrible person, everybody. I just want you to understand that. I am spreading misinformation. I am fake news, as Ulala would call me.
But the ratings!
The ratings.
I only want reporters that march to my beat, that tell the truth that I want the viewers to hear. Television is for entertainment. Why shouldn't I hypnotize the viewers?
Yeah, so all make believe that it was part of the collection and just roll with it, everybody. Just keep going. You're listening to this. It was part of the collection. It totally was. You can't get it anyway, so just believe me.
Oh, good. Now we're gaslighting people. Fantastic.
What are you going to do? Your own research for reasons other than proving us wrong and dunking on us? Good for you.
Never admit you're wrong. I am correct. No, yeah, I was wrong. Hey, everybody. Oh, great.
And that's the kind of integrity that gets people coming back, damn it.
Yes, I hope so. Anyway.
Also, Space Channel 5 did have a VR edition that did not do well. I don't think that holds up. That probably holds up worse than the original.
I would imagine. Yeah. Anyway, Geoff, thank you so much for coming on our show. You were fantastic.
Chris, Shane, both of you, thank you so much for having me on. This was an absolute blast.
Yeah, loved having you. And as such, hey, let the people know exactly where they can find you and your show and everything out on the internet.
Well, fantastic. Yes, I am part of Fun and Games Podcast, which is part of the Certain POV Network. You can find us at certainpov.com or funandgamespod.com. We're Fun and Games Pod on all social media that we are active upon. Fun and Games Podcast is a video game conversation and interview podcast with an optimistic view of games. The idea is that every game is somebody's favorite and no one can play every game that's out there. So we talk about things in and around the industry and our nostalgia of games. We bring our own personal gaming experience to what we find and what we share with people. Word of mouth is the best way to find the things that we love. So we like bringing that enthusiasm and bringing on a lot of enthusiastic indie creators. We bring folks from all around for part of our side quest series where different hosts every episode talks about a game they love and why they love it. I believe both of you have done side quests, haven't you?
Yes.
I've been on 2 of them.
There we go. Fantastic.
I think I've been on 2 of them as well.
Matt edits them, and we have done a lot of them. We started it in 2020, and we have hundreds of them. And maybe one of you out there wants to be part of it. Something like that. For things that I'm doing and what I'm up to, and a lot of times just reblogging and reposting what Fun and Games does, I'm Geoff Makes Noise, GEOFF, across most social media as well, and geoffmoonen.com for any of my acting and voiceover stuff.
Fantastic. And look forward to the tabletop RPG voiceover.
Oh, that's right. Yes. My current fun projects that most of my voiceover work is the most boring stuff. Not boring, but not the like, oh, do you got like a banner of all the anime characters you are? No. I've done a lot of like phone messages and e-learning and one of those. I love character work. And I'm currently working with Audio RPG, a company that releases audiobook versions of tabletop RPG games, a lot of Rifts and Traveler and Nightbane, and they are currently, as of when we're recording this, wrapping up their backer campaign for World's Largest Dungeon, which is compatible with 5th edition. It will be a 4-volume dungeon that is the 20th anniversary edition of a Guinness World Record World's Largest Dungeon that uses every monster in the monster manual and also has a writing submission contest for additional dangers and dungeons within it. I will be the voice of Book 2.
Nice. That's awesome.
I'm very excited for it.
So cool. Well, thank you once again. And go check out all of the things Geoff just said. Go listen to their content. I'm a patron of the Fun and Games podcast because I believe in the work they do. It's fantastic. And I love listening to their content.
Thank you.
Great stuff, man.
No, thank you so much, Chris. And I'm a big fan of what y'all do, too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Yes. And speaking of the things we do, I mean, it's mostly this, but also there are other things, more content, because everybody needs that, right? Like in this day and age, we clearly just need more content. That's what everybody is yearning for. Besides the minds, the children, they yearn for them, but you yearn for more content. And fortunately, we have that for you. So if you somehow have already made it through the 300 some odd episodes that we have on this here main feed, well, do I have news for you? There's a whole bunch more stuff on our Patreon. So as Chris mentioned earlier, if you would like to check that out, as well as perhaps the merch store, if you'd like to support the show, I almost went full Sean Connery there for a second. In that fashion, you can do that, and you can find all the other goodies like our public Discord, where we have fantastic conversations going on at any given time of the day. We've got a worldwide participation now, so there's something always going on at all hours. And let's see what else we got. Socials. We got socials. I'm not going to say we use them all that much because let's be real, we just don't, but we're there because it's like obligatory. So if you want to get in touch with us, Discord's probably going to be the best way to do it, or you could come harass us on one of our Sunday streams, which Chris is contractually obligated to tell you about, but all of that can be found in one place because we make it easy for you. And we're old men, so evidently that's why we use Linktree. So head on over to linktr.ee/retro hangover, and all of that stuff will be there. And Chris, please fulfill your piece of this spiel. Thank you.
Dear listener, do you find yourself on Sunday nights staring at your ceiling, questioning your existence and the way of the universe with nothing better to do? You could watch our podcast. I mean, you could go outside and have a good time. You watch our podcast, watch our stream. It's like, you can be watching our stream. This is why we are super semi-professional.
Chris? How do?
Just head on over to twitch.tv/retro hangover, where you won't get any ads because we're too lazy to monetize.
True.
And head over there at 9 p.m. Eastern time to watch us play games relatively poorly and dual stream over on YouTube because, I don't know, we have nothing better to do either because we have no friends. So head on over, well, except for you in our chat, be our friends. Be our friends. This is why we do this. Head over to twitch.tv/retro hangover at 9 p.m. Eastern time or YouTube and check us out there and talk about what tastes like pennies.
Oh, God.
Shane,
I'm so glad you keep bringing that up.
I will always bring that up.
Rhythm tastes like pennies.
Rhythm does taste like pennies.
Pennies from heaven.
Yes.
I don't even know where to go from there. Good Lord.
That's an obscure reference.
Yeah, it is really. All right. So, hey, on that note, salty milk and coins. Until next time,
play with your choo joysticks.
Shane here with a quick message. You know, the one rule Chris and I have always gone by regarding advertisements is this: it has to be something we use and can personally vouch for. If you know me, you know I love coffee, and Bones Coffee Company has been my go-to for home brewing for quite some time now. Their small batch beans come in an impressive variety of flavors like Mint Invaders from Chocolate Space, or Electric Unicorn, which I swear tastes exactly like Fruity Pebbles. And the best part? No added sugar or calories involved, just natural flavors infused right into the beans themselves. Build your own sample pack of 5 4-ounce bags to find out which flavors speak to you, or jump in head first with full 12-ounce bags. They've even got K-Cups. Step up your homebrew game with Bones Coffee by visiting bit.ly/RHPBones. That's bit.ly/RHPBONES.